Hey everybody, it's Thursday, August 21st, 2025. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Football Show, where we're taking our talent to South Beach. It's me, your man, MG Marcus Grant, joined by Michael F. Florio and Laquan Jones. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I almost screwed up that intro. I almost said Michael Jones and like Laquan F. Florio. I literally almost blew that right now. I probably should have admitted that to the audience, but I just felt like I needed to be open about the whole thing.
I appreciate that.
It is a Thursday, or as Laquan would call it, Friday Junior. A trend that we're trying to get sweeping the country. We're just going to start calling this day Friday Junior. But to help us out into the weekend and into preseason week 3, we are joined by NFL Network reporter Cam Wolfe. You always see him, especially hanging around the Dolphins, but around a lot of the teams down there in the Southeast. And the man who I consider to be the best dressed reporter in our media group.
Appreciate that.
Fresh to death.
Yeah, Cam, man, it's good to talk to you again, man. How are things?
I'm pumped to talk with you guys. It's the best time of the year for fantasy football. You know, I love it, and you guys are the best in the business. So I'm glad I get to spend some time.
Appreciate that.
Before we talk football, how many suits do you have that you haven't broke out yet?
You got some new ones?
I've got 4 that I have not worn yet, and I actually just saw This is going to sound really bougie, but I got a custom tailor who's in town, who I just saw at practice, who said he was going to come by later. We're going to get a few more. So hopefully I'm up to like 8 or 9 by the start of the season.
Fantastic.
I mean, I probably have way too many suits, but it's my thing. I want to have a little bit something different every year, have a different style and energy while I'll tell you guys what's going on with your favorite players and teams. So
I can't wait to see the week 1 fit, Cam, man, honestly. But, I mean, you've been getting swole, so the tailor, he kind of
see
that low key, that's the other part, because the fits aren't fitting the same.
Yeah.
You know, chest a little bigger.
Hit the gym, all of a sudden you need to buy a whole new wardrobe.
But yes, the wardrobe has definitely had to adjust quite a bit. So switching things up for sure. It's a good thing. My tailor just keeps saying, don't keep changing your body. You're gonna stay one side, right? And I'm like, no,
making them work for it.
This is my gain weight season, so no worries. I'll be back in those other suits soon enough.
He should want you to keep changing, because that's keeping him in business, right? Like,
that's a great point.
Keep changing.
That's a great point.
So we want to talk. We got you on mostly because we wanted to talk about the Miami Dolphins. But we're going to hit you up with some other teams too. So I have a simple question for you. WTF is going on with the Miami Dolphins right now?
Wow. You can go a lot of different places there. I think this is a team that is very much in a fork of the road as a team. Who are they trying to be? They're trying to change their identity from a team that was high-flying offense, scored a lot of points, but was considered soft by a lot of people in the league. And they want to change that mentality. They've been saying the right things, but the reality is the games are going to determine whether they're the same old Dolphins or they're who they say they're going to be. You got the whole drama with Tyreek Hill and Tua all off season, and Tyreek Hill's been in and out of the lineup with minor injuries, and now you got Devon Achane dealing with some injuries, and I think there's a lot of concern from Dolphins fans of, are we starting to look at the beginning of the end? And so this time of year is about optimism. There is hope, but there's probably less optimism and hope than any season I've covered in the Miami Daily.
And you mentioned Tyreek Hill there. He has been a little bit of a polarizing player on this pod, but what are your thoughts on Tyreek this season? Is he happy there? Does he want to stay in Miami? Is his eyes on the future? Like what's going on with Tyreek down there?
It depends what day of the week it is. Tyreek changes depending on how you feel. I will say this. I'm of the belief that Tyreek Hill will have a strong year. I really do. I think that from an on-field perspective and a fitness perspective, he looks the most fit that he's looked at times last year and even 2023. He didn't necessarily have always the endurance. He would come off the field, for a drive or two at a time. And I think he lost some weight and it's helped him in that endurance perspective. And when he's been on the field, he's looked electric. He looks like Tyreek Hill. That being said, it's the off the field that always gets you with Tyreek Hill, right? And he's been dealing with this oblique injury for the last week. He hadn't practiced. They're hopeful he's ready for week 1. But it's not a great start for him in this projected season. I do think he's a part of the Dolphins' plans until their season seems to be over. If they're at the trade deadline and they're 3-6, Could they be shopping Tyreek? Possibly, for sure. But I think at this stage, they're planning for him to give them the best chance to win. And I think Tua is going to throw him the ball a lot. And if he's healthy, I think he should be right around that wide receiver 1 range that he's been for most of his career. The health and the off the field is just obviously a little bit of concern to worry about.
Now, Cam, you got to feed the fantasy streets with this info, man. I mean, a lot of folks got drafts coming up. Devon Achane is very high investment, man. And now we're having reports come out that Jalen Wright is injured now. How banged up and how serious is this running back room looking right now?
Yeah, it's a concern. It's a concern, Laquan. I'll tell you that the depth is being tested. So for Devon Achane, it's a calf injury. He's not going to be at practice this week, maybe not much next week. I'm a little concerned for week 1 just because it's a soft tissue injury. You just don't know that it's recurring. The team says he'll play. I saw him at practice today. He was walking around, riding the bike at times, moving around well. He didn't have any padding or wrapping on that calf. He walks slow normally, so I can't tell if he's limping or not. But he certainly looked like a guy that's not dealing with a major injury. That being said, with these speedy guys, those things tend to linger. So that would be my concern with him. Not if he plays week 1, is does he get re-injured? That's where the depth comes into consideration. I'll tell you this, I think they expected more from Jalen Wright at this stage of camp. I think that he hasn't been the clear running back 2 that I think a lot of people thought he was going to be, to the point that I thought Ollie Gordon was testing him for some reps. And then today he got hurt in practice. Jalen Wright did. He left practice. He looked like he was limping. He went into the medical facility with trainers after. I don't know much more at this time. We'll probably get some type of update in the next 24 hours, but that's another injured back. Alexander Madison, who they thought was going to be their goal line back, already out for the year. So you got your first 3 backs already dealing with injuries. I would imagine this is a position group they look for additional help in, whether that's a trade market or free agency going into waiver wires. I think you're looking at a situation where they were already a little thin, already had some questions of who's going to be our short yardage back. And now these injuries put it more into consideration. So Ollie Gordon fan group, it's a good week for you guys. He ran over a dude in practice in Jaguars joint practice today and showed that pop that maybe gives him some optimism. I was talking to Aaron Brewer, a center, and he raved about him in a way that, vets only rave when a guy is actually good. He had some ball security issues early in camp that kept him off the field, and Mike McDaniel's been really big on him on doing the things when he's not touching the ball. So if anything, that would be what limits him from getting playing time. But right now, he is the only healthy back on the roster who is going to make the team.
You're a fantasy guy, Cam. If you're sitting there in round 2, Devon Achane's on the board, are you passing on him or are you taking him?
I probably pass on him, honestly. I think the soft tissue injury scares me. I think he's going to be a great volume player when he's on the field. But for a guy who's already small, I had some questions on can he fully take the workload coming into the season with the soft tissue injury. To me, there's too many good backs that I can take in the second round. I'll let somebody else take the risk.
Wow. All right. That's clutch right there. You mentioned Tua and Tyreek and trying to get together on the field and all this other kind of stuff. Last year, Tua threw the deep ball at maybe the lowest rate we've seen in a while. I know they want to be explosive. Are we going to see them try to be more vertical this year?
They have to run the ball better. Like when you watch the Dolphins tape, teams played more too high shell than any other team in recent memory against them. Their challenge was, hey, we don't believe you can run the ball. We're going to put too high and stop the deep ball. And they did. And so the offensive line's got to be better. The running backs, Achane, and these other guys have to be better to open up that deep ball. Because what teams were doing is they pressed Tyreek and Waddle off the line of scrimmage. And at this stage of their career, they're never going to be great getting off press. They're smaller receivers that rely on speed. You're not all of a sudden going to change that. And so I think the only way we see that deep ball back is if that running game is better. So your direct derivative of how much you bet on Tua and that deep ball is how much you trust this offensive line and this running game.
And there was this weird day or two in the summer where nothing was happening in football, and the Dolphins were like, you know what, we're going to trade Jonnu Smith, and then we're going to get Darren Waller out of retirement here. And then it feels like we really haven't heard anything about Darren Waller. So, should we expect much from him this year? Does he still look like the old Darren Waller, or is he just more like a complimentary piece now?
Yeah, Mike, I would have no expectations for Darren Waller, just being transparent. I think that He just got on the practice field today, and he did some off to the side individual drills. They've been working him up back to football mode. He was in good shape, but I just think football mode, he wasn't there yet. So I do think he's going to be your starting tight end once he's ready to speed, because they have no one else. But just talking to some of the coaches there, talking to people there, I think that it's been a journey for him the last couple of years. And I think that the expectation you're getting Darren Waller, peak Raiders, is not realistic. I think that at this point, you're just hoping you're getting quality starting tight end reps. And I just don't think that Jonnu Smith impact is coming from Darren Waller. So I think right now they're just hoping to get him on the field, have him contribute somewhat in that passing game. But right now, I wouldn't see him as a draftable player.
Will we hear any of his music at Dolphins games?
We may, right? Like, I've been waiting for it. He hasn't practiced much. The Dolphins have this thing called Orange Jersey, where they give the player of the day, the previous player, the aux the next day. And they wear an orange jersey. They get control of the music. You got guys playing their hit list, whether it's the country music for the offensive linemen often. You got some trap rap music. You got some deep Southern tracks. I was just waiting for a full Darren Waller playlist, every single track.
They got that beam on me.
He hadn't practiced enough to get the orange jersey. So maybe we'll have to wait for game day to see if he can convince DJ.
So what are the expectations coming from this tight end room? I mean, Tanner Conner has been making some waves. I mean, how has he looked throughout camp?
Yeah, he's had some solid days. I think right now, like, if they started a game today, Tanner Conner would probably be their lead tight end, because Darren Waller's just not up to speed yet. They got maybe 2 or 3 weeks to get him ready to go. So I think you see Tanner Conner. He's a blocker for them. He's a receiver. If you remember this Dolphins offense before Jonnu Smith, I'd imagine that's what you're going to see early in the season, where the tight ends is a part of the offense, but not a key part of the offense, right? I think Jonnu Smith kind of unlocked that role for them, and they just don't have that player yet. So I'd say that Tanner Conner is probably going to be a guy who maybe gets a goal line touchdown or 2 early in the season, maybe a few catches, but I just don't see him as that third weapon they've been looking for in that passing game outside of Tyreek and Waddle.
So Mike McDaniel came in kind of the boy wonder. He was very different than everybody else. I mean, kind of looks like a nerdy accountant sort of guy, but, hip hop, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Feels like the act has worn thin. How stable is Mike McDaniel's job down there?
Cool. Not the most stable, I would say. I don't know, like 1 to 10, what he would be on the proverbial hot seat, but I do think he feels the pressure. Like, this is a Dolphins team that put a lot of money into his roster. You paid Tua, you paid Tyreek, you paid Waddle, you paid and traded Jalen Ramsey. You gave Mike McDaniel an extension. So all-in bet on this core. And if you're going into year 4, no playoff wins, that starts to become a little bit redundant. Yes, you revived Tua's career, but what has that meant as far as wins? And I think that's really been the focus point when you talk to people locally is, hey, what's the next level? How can we get us over from a 10-7 decent team to one that can actually make some noise? And just telling you transparently, watching this team in camp, I don't think they're better talent-wise. So if they're going to do it, it's not going to be, in my view, because they're a more talented team. It's going to be because maybe they had some addition by subtraction, which is what they believe with some people leaving the building, and that they feel like they're a better and tougher team relying on some young new leaders. So that's going to be their route. And to me, that's a show me route. I'm not going to be able to see that because I can't tell you, hey, your secondary is better than last year. Your offensive line is better than last year. They're just going to have to prove it to us. So certainly a big question mark.
Yeah, I know a lot of us are sort of root for him because he's just different. We love his quotes. We think he's funny. We think he does something different. So we like to see him succeed. But obviously,
I like Mike McDaniel too. He's fun for the media. He brings a lot of offense and incredible usage for fantasy football owners. Like any Dolphin player the last few years, you're probably pretty happy. I just think the thing for him is the control, the discipline, the accountability, some of the question marks. How does he handle those? Owner Stephen Ross has been supportive of him. If they go out and have a similar season, I don't know if they're in a rush to run him out. But if things go bad, like really bad, like we're sitting at the trade deadline, should we trade Tyreek type bad? I could see that being, Mike McDaniel's last ride.
From your perspective, what would be a successful season for the Dolphins? Because we talk on this pod, like, do they have to win a playoff game for him to be safe and stuff? Like,
Yeah, so I think it's safe and success is a different question to me. I think they're not exactly the same. I don't know that he's at a playoff win or bust in a save your job scenario. I do think they would need a playoff win for Dolphins fan base, for ownership to feel like this is a really good year. Now, if they're 9-8, make the playoffs and lose a wild card game or miss the playoffs barely, I don't know if that's necessarily, hey, we're pulling the axe out. I think there's a middle ground there that they could fall in there. I think when you start looking at losing records or worse record than last year, then I think that's where you start to think about, hey, is this threatening his job? So at least my view of it, there's a scale of playoff win or more, very happy, middle ground, playoff loss or just missed playoff, and then anything worse than that, we start worrying about, is this the end?
Yeah, definitely been one of the more interesting teams this offseason for sure. Gonna take a quick break, come back more with Cam Wolfe, talk about some of the other teams down there in the southeastern part of the country. Stick around for more on the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. Back talking with NFL Network reporter Cam Wolfe. He's got his thoughts on the Dolphins, but he covers more than just that, handling a lot of the teams down there in the Southeast. So I wanted to kind of branch out a little bit. You mentioned the Dolphins doing joint practices with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Travis Hunter has been one of the more intriguing names, not just in fantasy, but in the NFL in general, right? We're looking to see him do something that most of us have never seen in our lifetime, a guy playing both ways significantly. For you, having seen this team and been around them, do you have a sense of what Jacksonville's plan is for Travis Hunter?
I do. I've spent a couple of days in practice with him in Jacksonville, a day here. From what I've heard talking to people there, he is going to be a primary full-time offensive player. I think you're going to see him play receiver 80+% of the reps, whatever the normal break is for breathers, I'd expect. And I'd see him starting on defense as a situational player and kind of earning more reps as the year gets on. His goal, he made clear to me when I was down there, he wants to be 100% eventually. They're not starting him off that way. He's been getting most of the reps on offense. They feel like they can control how much he can impact the game on offense in a way they can't do on defense. And so you're going to see him be the primary complement to Brian Thomas Jr. in that passing game for the Jags offense. And then defense, I think you'll see third down packages. I think you'll see some situations where it's obvious pass downs. And then certainly if he proves he can handle both of those throughout the season, then maybe you start seeing him get some real starter reps there. But I would be fully confident drafting him as if he will be playing offense most game.
Ooh. And yeah, that's exactly what us fantasy players who have been drafting Travis Hunter want to hear.
Yes.
Another big wide receiver that first round, second round is Drake London. And we all know that he has the talent. Bijan has the talent there. We think Kyle Pitts at one point had the talent. But they haven't had the quarterback. Is Michael Penix Jr. the Falcons' answer finally at the most important position?
I'm not sure yet. I wish I could give you a definitive yes. He's the guy. But I've seen it so many times where the young quarterback shows promise for 3 or 4 games and you get sold in and then all of a sudden he's not that. I'll tell you this, like the connection he has with Drake London is incredible. Like I was there last camp and it's at a different level. I think we understated this during the year. He didn't throw to Drake like outside of training camp until December. And so like there was like just no chemistry and they were still having incredible success. I was down there for a couple of days in joint practice and it was just like these dudes have been throwing together for 10 years. And so I don't know what Michael Penix, is he going to lead the Falcons to an AFC South title? Is he going to be a top 10 quarterback? I don't know what Michael Penix is going to be this year, but I feel pretty good that he's going to be throwing the ball a lot at Drake London, and that's going to be a great connection. So, I think Michael Penix, the thing that I saw in camp was he can still be a little inconsistent with his accuracy. And so you just want him to continue to get those reps to where, you're thinking about him as a 65 plus completion percentage guy instead of a 55 to 60% completion percentage guy. And I think that's really the difference between him being, a solid quarterback to, hey, this is a guy that can help us compete with Baker for this division. So I like Drake London a lot in this offense. Obviously, Bijan is going to have an incredible year in that offense as well. And, I think that most of the offense will funnel through those two guys.
I mean, if you want to get deep sighs and eye rolls from fantasy people, just mention the name Kyle Pitts. But Penix has talked him up in training camp. I read that they are golfing buddies.
Yes.
just have to, is this finally the year like he because look, he had a great rookie year. Is this the year we see him get back closer to what we saw that first season?
This is approaching is Joe Flacco elite range. Like, this is Kyle Pitts' year. Like, this is every year, one of these years, I don't know if it's this year, but one of these years, Kyle Pitts is going to have another elite season. I'll tell you this, like, I was there in camp. They are not planning to trade Kyle Pitts. I know that was a big thing throughout the offseason. They planned for him to be a part of the roster. He's looked as healthy as he has in a couple of years. I'm not sure if he's 100% fully healthy. I couldn't get anybody to tell me like completely, but he did move well, better than he did last year for sure. Like last year, you could clearly see him laboring throughout camp at this time of year. This year, he's moving pure. I think the question I will have is like, how is his natural fit? Is he still that explosive, deep seam player that he was early in his career? I saw like very sprinkles of that. I didn't see the consistency, and I tend to think that maybe translates into the season where you see spurts of Kyle Pitts instead of the consistent, 1,000-yard year that he had. So I would be a little concerned betting on him as a tight end 1, but sure, if you got a chance to get some upside at tight end 2 because of his talent, I don't see a huge issue with that.
So you are not buying a ticket to the circus, and that sounds amazing for the fans.
I am not. I'm not just simply because you got to show it to me, and I feel like, especially with his health, I've got to see him go through a full season healthy before I can trust my gracious tight end starting spot to one Kyle Pitts.
So there's a guy that's been going under the radar for a lot of fantasy drafts, just being that he picked up an injury in the beginning of camp. Yep. It's a shoulder injury with Darnell Mooney. Has there been any update on his status, and what does it look like for him for the season opener?
Yeah, I talked to some people in Atlanta about a week ago. The plan is for him to be back week 1. We won't see him in the practice field for the next week or two. He's dealing with that, that injury there. And I think the thing for him is like, does he get to 100% by week 1? I think he'll play. It may be similar, honestly, to Devon Achane, where different injuries, because Achane's got a soft tissue and Mooney's more structural, with the high ankle. I think that you look at like Mooney as if he's there and he's 80% or 90%, but playing week 1. Do you feel confident that you can draft him and that even if he's never 100%, you feel good about him? Like that would be the question I would have, because I think he's going to play and I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's a thing that's going to reoccur with him. I just don't know if he's going to be 100% by week 1. So that's kind of talking to people there. They're planning for him to be out there. Rehab's going well. You're just not going to see much practice time. So he's going to be ready like week 1, not like this week. And so that's going to be where, hey, maybe if you're drafting him, that first month of the season might not be guns blazing. And so I wouldn't know that I draft him with the idea he's going to be my starting line from the jump. But he had over 1,000 yards last year with 2 different quarterbacks, one that was playing very poorly for much of the year. And so I don't see a reason why he can't put up similar numbers this year once he's healthy.
Over in Carolina, Bryce Young's short career has kind of been an interesting study in patience for a lot of us. After year 1, people were ready to declare him a bust and that the Panthers completely screwed this whole thing up. And then by the end of last year, there's a lot of conversation of like, all right, maybe there really is something there because we started to see him develop. Heading into year 3, have you seen Bryce Young? What does he look like? What are the expectations for him this year?
Yeah, I did 2 practices with the Panthers early this year, and I did their preseason game. One thing that was made clear to me, like Bryce Young is the most confident he's been in that building. And the reason I say confidence is because that's been a big issue with him. There was times he'd be around the facility, he wouldn't be super confident. He would show poor body language, like he just wouldn't be the exuding Alabama Bryce Young that he was, and that would have an impact on his play, impact on the field. And this year has just been different. He's walking around with a different strut. He's talking trash to, J.C. Horn in practice, like things that Bryce Young just didn't do. Like, who are you? Type vibes. And it was cool. I talked to their OC, Brad Isaac, in camp, and I was just like, hey, we keep hearing different Bryce Young, different. Like, tell me, like, what is real about it? And he was like, I'll give you this. He was like, in the spring, we challenged Bryce Young to be a different type of leader. He's typically a one-on-one type of guy. He doesn't like to embarrass the dude. He wants to pull you off to the side and say, hey, you ran a wrong route. He was like, I need you to lead the entire team that way. I need you to tell people their mistakes in front of the group. And he came back in the first week of practice 2 or 3 times. He was calling out some of the young receivers from their mistakes in front of the team. And he was going through plays and drawing them up on the board in front of the team, something he hadn't done in his first 2 years there. So does that translate to him being all of a sudden elite? I don't know, but I do think it's a notable change in his confidence, the way he's moving around the building. I do think there's something to be said about having the same scheme you're going into for the second year for a guy who's a comfort, timing, feeling-based passer. And I do think them getting another weapon in Tetairoa McMillan is going to help a lot. Last year, it was the big offensive lineman year for them. They went and got Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, and it went well. They were running the ball well in the second half of the year, and they still didn't have that receiver. Now you get Tetairoa McMillan, you add him into the bunch, and he's flash number one potential. And I think you kind of see a little bit more of that point guard mentality for Bryce. So I've had people say they could be a sneaky wild card team. And I can see the elements, because I think people forget how good they were on the ground late last year, which is why I think Chuba Hubbard's going to have a really, really good year for Carolina. Ooh. I think that they're even better as a run blocking unit up front, and with more versatility in that pass game. I think that's going to open up lanes for them to still be that run first team. So I think Bryce has a good year. I think he's a starter the whole year. I'm curious to see how his connection is with T-Mac. They had times in camp where McMillan was struggling to get off press coverage, and he was admitting it. He's really struggled with physicality. The week I was there, he responded really well. And so I think there's some eagerness to see when he gets there week 1. They're playing the Jags, funny enough. Tyson Campbell, Travis Hunter, if they're jamming him off the line of scrimmage, can he get off press? Can he win in ways that he didn't have to win in college because they're playing a lot of bail coverage? I think that's still a big question. But if he can get over that, I think he's their number one target for Bryce, and Bryce has a much better year.
And you just talked a lot about McMillan and how they're going to be facing the Jaguars week 1. Hunter and McMillan, I feel like, are always going to be tied together. So if you had to pick rookie season, who has more receiving yards, Hunter or McMillan?
So that's interesting. I actually talked to McMillan that weekend. I asked him about the battle between Hunter, and he made a joke that I think is relevant here. He said that since he's playing both sides, I hope he's more fatigued than me. And I thought that was funny because obviously T-Mac is just playing one side. And I think that also because he has a better route to targets, because there's no Brian Thomas Jr. on the Carolina roster. If I was handicapping it, I probably would say I think that McMillan will have more yards than Travis Hunter. And that's no knock against Travis. I think some of that's just opportunity. Number 1 receiver in the offense versus number 2 receiver in the offense. I think they're both going to be similar production offenses, probably middle of the pack in Jacksonville and Carolina. And so to me, you go with the guy with the opportunity there. But I think both of them will have strong years.
So, Cam, let me know, outside of Tetairoa McMillan, has there been another pass catcher? This includes the tight ends like Jalen Coker, Jatavian Sanders. Who's been stepping up as that second option in that offense?
Yeah, I think they had actually some flashes where Hunter Renfrow was their second best receiver in camp, which is crazy enough. I talked to their general manager, Dan Morgan, and he was the guy he couldn't stop raving about. He was like, he's the guy that shocked me enough to change how I went about evaluating my wide receiver room. And then he got hurt, and he's been hurt for the last 2 or 3 weeks with I think it's a soft tissue injury, and we haven't seen much of him. And so I don't know if he comes back and can regain some of the promise, but it was very interesting to me that they were talking about Renfrow and maybe him filling a lot of that void that maybe Adam Thielen was filling. And then it made me wonder, hey, does this make Adam Thielen, expendable? Especially where there's a team that he used to play with that is looking for a receiver. But this is just me connecting dots and trying to figure out what makes sense. But I think you gotta have, Renfrow healthy. You gotta have Xavier Legette, who by the signs of it is having a nice camp. He has some issues with drops. I don't know if he'll ever be 1,000, plus yard receiver camp, but can he be a solid wide receiver 2 for Tetairoa McMillan? I think that's the hope. If there's enough there, I think you'll see a little bit more of the wide receiver by committee. You mentioned Jalen Coker and Jatavian Sanders having nice camps, but from a fantasy football perspective, I don't know if any of those guys are moving the needle enough for me to invest in any of them. I think for me, I'm owning Chuba and I'm owning Teddy McMillan on this roster. That's probably it.
So Cam, Laquan always says I like to stir the pot on this show. I have to ask you, who's the NL MVP, Ohtani or Schwarber?
It's Schwarber, man. I just saw Ohtani give up like 5 runs, so I don't even know what the pitcher advantage he would have over Schwarber at this point. With ERA almost at 5. So I just think that Schwarber is taking over the second half of the year with how he's killing homers. He's leading the NL in homers, leading the NL in RBIs. Just changing the way that the Phillies play baseball. He's a leader of that team. They have a better record than the Dodgers currently. And promoters be a little tired of Ohtani. Like,
I'm a Met fan, man. It's been rough for me.
I was going to say,
give somebody else a break.
What I was going to say is, don't let Michael F. Florio distract you from the fact that the Mets are 5-12 in August. Like, that's what's happening.
Man, it's been even worse.
These things are good. As the resident Phillies fan here, I got my Red October mug. I love to see both Mets misery and see if we can get Ohtani in that appearance.
I'm just saying, I don't know if you guys want to run into us in the playoffs again.
Hey, I honestly, if I was a Mets fan, I would just make sure we make the playoffs.
Yeah, that is concern number 1 right now.
The Reds getting real close on those fields.
It hasn't been a very fun 2 months as a Met fan.
Well, I know the Dodgers and Phillies do have, I think, one big series coming up. I think either later this month or early next month, something like that. So that's going to be really key in terms of the NL standings. That should be fun, though. Yeah, looking forward to that as well. But Cam, dude, always appreciate it, man. It's always good knowledge, and we always love having you on because we know you sort of look at it kind of from our perspective as well, because we know you're a big fantasy guy. So, man, we appreciate it. Do you have your week 1 assignment yet? Do you know where you're going to be?
I will be at the Battle of Ohio. That is where I'm at, Cleveland, Cincinnati. So, just got it a couple days ago. No Shador, so won't have that buzz. But Joe Flacco, Joe Burrow, and given how I've looked at the Bengals defense in preseason, it might be the first one to 50 wins. So it might be a big week for all those Browns and Bengals. So maybe we're talking about how many Browns and Bengals you're starting week 1.
Yeah, see,
who brings it more with the suit? You or Joe Burrow?
Oh, see, Joe Burrow takes risks that I do not take. But I just think that because of his risk-taking, my consistency is better because he has more misses. He has more flat-out misses because
open back
what are you doing, Joe? And I can tell that Joe has a stylist that is putting them into stuff that maybe he wouldn't normally wear. Everything I wear is picked out by me. And so I know that's something that is my style. Whereas, I think Joe sometimes wears stuff for a reaction and maybe some pictures and some sponsors and whatnot.
We got to clip this and get this to Burrow.
All that stuff at the Met Gala isn't necessarily made for like regular people.
No. I can imagine my boss's eyes if I come in with a backless suit for week 1.
Go ahead and clock out, pal.
That might be my last game day morning that I am flowing with. I don't think the fashion bit would
come on, you got to flex the back muscles, Cam. You can pull that off. Pull that off.
I also think it would help in those Septembers in Miami. At least keep the back cool. Nothing else.
Whatever tips I can get. Maybe Joe's got the right idea for Miami. Maybe I do something.
That's great. Hey, Cam, man, we appreciate it, man. Be good. Take care. Hopefully we get you back on here soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, fellas. Draft well.
All right. Hey, that's Cam Wolfe. We're going to take a quick break, come back, talk about players we love in the late rounds of drafts. Stick around for more of the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. Thanks to Cam Wolfe for stopping by. Of course, be sure to check him out all year long on NFL Network. Go follow him on the social medias as well. Best dressed reporter at the network by
hands down. No disrespect to any of our other
reporters.
No
stylist. Either.
No stylist. It's all handpicked by Cam Wolfe himself. All right. By the way, it's time to see who will deliver, presented by Uber Eats. This is where we get to the guys we love in the later rounds. On Monday, we did the players that we love in rounds 5 through 8. On Wednesday, it was players in rounds 9 through 12. So we figured we might as well round it out with those last picks in your draft, those upside dart throws in a lot of situations, and talk about the guys that we love there, rounds 13 through 16. So LQ, I'm looking at the list. It's an oldie but goodie in the late rounds.
Hey. Yeah, man, with all the basic distractions and chaos going on in the fantasy streets, the overnight revolution for Chris Rodriguez going against JCM, aka Kill Bill, carving up those defenses. It's Austin Eckler, the person that Florio has in his hand right now. And I love grabbing him in the 14th round. And I'm actually surprised he's still this cheap, man, because when we look at last season in the games that Brian Robinson was not available, he averaged 15 fantasy points per game. So he still has that RB1 juice if given the opportunity and getting the ball. So I do think that him going in the 14th round, it kind of just disputes all that JCM and Chris Rodriguez mess where you're just going to get planted a guy who's shown up and shown out last season. I mean, 6.5 yards per touch, which was first among all running backs that had a minimum of 100 touches. So he's still able to get loose and get out there upfield. So there's plenty of PPR upside with such a safe, reliable floor. So I think his role remains as the pass catcher out of his backfield. So he is great value there in that late round.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think his role changes at all, right? He's pretty much locked in. It was a battle for who was going to take kind of those other downs, which I'm going to leapfrog you here because I like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Because here's the thing. Basically, Dan Quinn has told Brian Robinson, hey, man, why don't you just take a couple days off?
Like, go ahead and clock out, pal.
Just go ahead and clock out. We'll call you when we need you. They are very much trying to move Brian Robinson Jr., so it appears that his tenure in Washington is over. Where he lands, that remains to be seen. Obviously, what JCM did in the last preseason game got everybody all excited. A lot of Bill jokes, a lot of big beautiful Bill, Kill Bill, a lot of Bill jokes for JCM.
I like Kill Bill the best though,
and it does seem. Although I don't know, just see the way Bill went out in that movie. Like Bill didn't make it. Bill didn't make it through the end of the movie. I'm just saying.
Nor should he have.
I was about to say it.
He was kind of earned. He was not a good person. He was not. But the point being, JCM right now playing well. Looks like he has the inside track to getting that starting job. So the upside is there. And right now, aside from the sharps and the degenerates, I think for most people, the news and the ADP hasn't quite caught up. So you can still get him in this later period. And then you could be walking into a starting running back, at least a 2-down back in an offense that is emerging. Would still like for you guys to make up with Terry McLaurin. But in the meantime, things are looking up for JCM. So I felt like I had to just piggyback onto the Austin.
No, that makes sense.
With that. So.
I like your picks better. The one thing I don't think that's going to talk about with Eckler is like, what if he gets some goal line work this year? He was really effective for years at it. Like I like, they're both great picks. I like them more than mine. I like all of your guys' picks more than mine, by the way. But Marquise Brown was mine because like he's on the Chiefs. He's a proven deep threat and he's going as a complete afterthought, even with the news of the Rashee Rice suspension that we know Marquise Brown now is going to have a period where he's going to be a top 2 wide receiver on this team. His ADP hasn't moved at all. So I understand he hasn't really been out there a lot this summer. He's back at practice now, though. Remember all the rave reviews Mahomes was giving him last year. So just when we're talking this late in drafts, I think he brings more upside than a lot of the receivers in this range.
I think the biggest thing for Marquise Brown is just staying healthy. Like, I think if he stays healthy, he's going to get those deep shots. He's going to get those targets. And you're right. The fact that the news of the Rashee Rice suspension, whatever it's going to be, hasn't coincided with, Marquise Brown moving up in ADP. Like, I haven't figured that out, but take advantage of the situation while you absolutely can. Let's go back for another round. Who you like, LQ?
Give me Pat Bryan season. And I'm going to be very loud about this because I was very hyped about him before the draft even started. And to see him get this role now as the Broncos wide receiver 2, you best believe that is not a Bo Nix reference, but you best believe he's going to be on the field with opportunity. And when you look at what he did in college, man, he is always knocked for his lack of separation, his lack of speed. Okay. But his football IQ is so underrated where he knows where to be to have sure hands. And look, he has the skill to basically create that separation without speed. And I mention that and compare that to my old friend, Cooper Kupp. He's not exactly the most fastest guy out there, but he's able to know where to be on the field, and him stepping into this wide receiver 2 role with Sean Payton, he's all bricked up about him, man. You see how excited he gets when he talks about Pat Bryant. He is his Michael Thomas 2.0, and he's going so late in drafts that folks are not waking up that, hey, this can actually be something here where they're going to have a wide receiver 2 actually get funneled some type of targets.
We got a new slant boy. Is that what it is? A new slant boy in
in chill. He's listening.
Okay, so I got a couple questions for you. First of all, because part of the reason that he moves up in the pecking order is because the Broncos traded Devon Vele to New Orleans. I know you were a big Vele guy. Are you still a big Vele guy with him down in New Orleans, maybe catching passes from?
I like how we about to lace this together because absolutely, I've been telling people like in best ball leagues, like Devon Vele, because I did think he was going to lock up this wide receiver 2 role because he is damn good as well. But obviously, Sean Payton still got some type of pull over there in New Orleans to be able to get the compensation he got for him. But I do think that just shows that he is actually a good player in his role, and being that he is a big target, big body target with sure hands as well. We saw flashes with him and Bo Nix earlier in the season last year when Josh Reynolds went out. So I do think this was a trade that actually he has some opportunity to shake up that wide receiver room in New Orleans.
The other question for you, and this is just really me asking because I saw recently Sean Payton hyping up Troy Franklin. Like, is this a thing, or is Troy Franklin like the new Marvin Mims?
I think Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin are going to be deployed in this offense as weapons. They're going to be sprinkled at times when they need that pop, big play. Troy Franklin had a good camp. I don't think he is as good as Pat Bryant because I don't think Troy Franklin is the one that kind of pushed this Devon Vele trade. So I do think that you have to be a little cautious in drafts just because you're hearing the name over and over. Like, for God's sakes, Pat Bryant torched the defensive player of the year last year in practice. When you see reports like that, you're like, who is this guy? So Pat Bryant's the guy you should be targeting if you're going to be getting anything outside of Sutton in that wide receiver room.
All right, that's cool. Florio, who do you like coming back in the late rounds?
People are going to call me a homer, but Joshua Palmer is absolutely free right now. Like on Fantasy Pros ADP, he's like the wide receiver 73, which means in a lot of drafts he might not get drafted. But I people who have been at Bills camp and stuff, talking to them, there's a lot of like Coleman is getting a lot of praise, but so is Palmer. And I think they're both cheap enough where you could get both of them if you want, or if you miss out on Coleman, you throw a dart on Palmer. Maybe you just like Stevie Johnson thinks Palmer is leading the Bills in receiving yards and touchdowns this year. Like, wow. And he is a better separator than anyone the Bills had last year, especially on deep targets. So Josh Allen has his like go up and get it guy in Palmer, and Coleman. But if he has someone that's creating consistent separation, and the thing is, Shakir is a slot guy. Kincaid is a slot guy. The Bills are desperately looking for anyone who could win out wide. So I think both Coleman and Palmer are going to get ample opportunities. And look, if Palmer was on like 20 other offenses, I wouldn't care about him. But he's with Josh Allen, so like on a team that has a bunch of wide receiver targets up for grab. So if we're talking about late round dart throws, to me, that is one that I like to throw.
I'm curious because I looked, last year, Khalil Shakir had 100 targets. The only guy that was even sort of near that, right? So you got Shakir, you got Coleman, you got Palmer. They're still going to get some to Kincaid, maybe some to Knox. James Cook's going to get. Is there a 100 target guy on this roster right now?
I think Shakir, if he stays healthy, is definitely a 100 target guy. One of the other two outside wide receivers, I think they're the only other players with a realistic chance of maybe Kincaid if he stayed healthy and like Knox got hurt, but I don't want to bank on that. But I do think if one of these two outside wide receivers is like takes over as the clear-cut top outside guy, I think they would have 100 targets.
I got to ask you, though, your boy been back in the building. A familiar face has been getting visits, and that's Mr. Gabriel Davis. Now, if he gets put into the picture again, are you changing your tune on Palmer?
No, because Palmer creates separation. Greg, yes. I would say Greg Davis. Gabe Davis does not. So I think Davis is like what Coleman is right now. Like, I don't know. I think he would come in because the familiarity and like be a really good depth piece. Because after those top three, like Curtis Samuel's on the roster bubble, Elijah Moore's on the roster bubble. They are kind of thin behind those three. So I think he would be more depth. But He's got to find a home somewhere, right? Like I think he's visiting Pittsburgh at some point. Like someone's gonna sign him. But
remember
it doesn't move the needle.
Davis wars of a couple of years ago, where
just like those are great times to be on the right side of that war.
Every day you would log onto Twitter and like fantasy folks were just arguing about Gabe Davis. Man, it was just
Gabe Davis. This isn't even me being a Bills fan. Has maybe the best playoff performance ever. He had 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then did nothing.
Which was the start of the argument, right? It was like he had that huge game in the playoffs. Everybody's like, he's turning a corner. Josh Allen loves him. He's going to be. And like that was like kind of the last we really saw of
Caught 2 touchdowns in under 2 minutes of the final in the 13-second game. Like it was remarkable. I remember being like, this guy is going to be a stud, no doubt about it.
Yeah. And that started the wars.
There was lots of doubts about it.
Lots of doubts about it. My guy is Braylon Allen, and we talk about players for whom, the draftniks, the nerds, the degenerates like us have kind of jumped in on and are reaching for a little bit, whereas the news maybe hasn't trickled down to everybody else. Braylon Allen feels like one of those guys. I think what we have to do is sort of adjust our thought process about the Jets' backfield to understand that it's probably going to be a 2-man backfield, right? A couple years ago, when the Jets drafted Breece Hall, we thought, okay, this guy has workhorse potential. The Jets have shown us over the last couple of years that they don't really feel that way. Maybe it was the knee injury that has sapped something out of Hall. I don't know. But for whatever reason, the Jets have really been telling us they don't feel that way about Breece Hall. And the guy who looks poised to take advantage of that right now is Braylon Allen. We saw him in the preseason game get a lot of opportunity. The reports out of camp have been very good. And it really does seem like Tanner Engstrom really wants to use both of these backs. Right now, again, hanging around somewhere around 14, 15, a late round guy who looks like he's going to get a lot of snaps, get a lot of opportunity. I don't know how much he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield necessarily, but he's going to get touches. And so to get a guy with that potential workload that late in the draft feels like a steal. Again, the people who've been drafting for months have already sort of recognized it. I think for the folks who are just sort of waking up and logging on, you can find yourself a really, really good value in the very late rounds of your draft.
I don't get why he hasn't moved up. Like he just kind of has stayed the same despite having a big workload in the preseason. Yeah. But the thing is, I think both the Jets running backs could be fine because the Jets are going to be top 5 in running plays. Like they're going to run the ball endlessly as long as the game script allows them to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's shifted because the Breece Hall revolution is a little too loud right now. Like we have people taking him off the board very early in drafts.
Like I'm in a draft right now, and Travion Henderson went over him. RJ Harvey, Pacheco, Kamara, all Breece Hall is still on the board, and all of those guys are gone.
And I think that's an overreaction the other way. I think people are overreacting too much.
If I'm 2 picks away, if Breece is there in the 6th round, I'm grabbing Breece.
Oh yeah,
it's a super flex.
If he's in the 4th round, I might think about it. Like in those rounds, that's where Travion Henderson and RJ Harvey that you're speaking about, they're living and breathing there, and there's some really good wide receivers there as well, like a Tetero McMillan that I rather would probably have than a Breece Hall. But if he's dropping anywhere further and further down, of course I'm going to take that shot.
This is a
it's not going to be my RB1.
He would be, if he's 2 picks away, it would be the second to last pick in the 6th round. I'd be crazy not to take him there.
Yeah. I do think it's a little overreaction.
I'm in a 14-team best ball draft right now, and I got him at the end of the 3rd round. So I feel all right.
I think Rank took him in the 2nd round. That's why I was just oh my God.
Adam Rank is really high on Breece Hall.
For years.
He's got me to come around a little bit on him this year, not to that level, but late 3rd round in a 14-teamer, I feel okay about it.
I think a bold hot take is that he has less than 200 carries, and I think he's just primarily just going to have to live as a pass catcher out of that backfield. So I think his ceiling might actually be in that RB2 range. I don't see RB1 in his future at all this season because Braylon Allen can also catch the ball. He's also found better holes and better success in between the tackles, outside the tackles. He's found success in the red zone as well. So it's everything Breece Hall can do, Braylon Allen has shown us that he can do it or do it better. So I think that's their hammer out of that backfield.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this thing sort of works out, but I think we're undervaluing Brandon Allen. But I think we've also undervalued Breece Hall at this point too. Like it's gone too far. Stop the insanity. So, anyway,
my hot take is Justin Fields leads them in rushing touchdowns.
I don't think that's crazy. I don't really think that's crazy.
That is a top 5 season right there. We need that. We need that.
Anyway, that was Who Will Deliver, presented by Uber Eats. When football makes you hungry, get game day deals on Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Thanks to Cam Wolfe for stopping by. A lot of great insights from him. Love him basically just throwing cold water on any Kyle Pitts. So,
I love that. I love
that.
I'm changing my tune about Devon Achane though. I got a draft coming up this weekend, and
that was interesting as well.
I gotta lower him a
lot of good
bit,
Miami Dolphins news from him, but also some, I think, insight on Travis Hunter, on the Carolina Panthers, and Ted McMillan. A lot of good stuff there from
and
for sure.
Not a Ohtani for MVP guy.
Yeah, you lobbed that argument grenade. I saw what you were doing there. Just lobbing argument grenades.
Stirring the pot once again, Florio.
He's only one home run back of Schwarber, and he also pitches every 5th day. I've never seen the Schwarbino throw a pitch. I'm just saying.
He doesn't even play the field.
I mean, neither does Ohtani. So
how's it feel to be a baseball player who doesn't own a baseball glove?
Oh man, baseball heat here in August. That's great. I love it. You got to get on board, LQ. We got to get you on board.
I know. Darryl Strawberry still playing?
You have to be like a Padres fan though.
Why?
Don't do that. No, don't do that.
Just to add the rivalry to you.
I know Padres are bad. I know Angels.
The Padres are really good.
The Padres are good. What he's trying to do,
LQ,
I said the fans. Laquan, what he's trying to do is get you and I to argue about something else besides just the 49ers and the Rams. That's what
I see what you're doing there.
Yeah. Become a Giants fan?
No,
become a Padres fan?
He's just trying to make us argue more. Like, don't let him drive a wedge between us. Don't let him do that.
Become an Angels fan?
Become an Angels fan.
Absolutely. I know that's bad. No,
they're not bad. Just no one really cares about the Angels.
There you go.
You double their fan
Sorry,
base.
Gavin. Sorry, Adam. Sorry.
What is wrong with you?
They got a nice ballpark, though. It's really nice.
They do. It's easy to get in and out. Much easier.
I'm going to watch Monster Trucks.
There's
a Monster Truck show in this
Not a lot
stadium.
of traffic. It's easy to get in and out of, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Let's curb this before we get too far off the rails. That'll do it for this edition of the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. Stay happy, safe, and healthy. Do good and live well. Preseason week 3 starts tonight, everybody. Enjoy the football this weekend before we get a week of no football, the dead week next week. We will talk to you again on